everybody. Welcome back to the Cafe Verve podcast. I'm here with another amazing guest, my dear friend and colleague, Dr. Princess Cullum. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Very excited to be here.
Yes, I'm so happy. I'm so happy. We've been chatting a little bit about this day and we're finally here. So I'm so happy we're together. And before we get started today, do you want to tell everybody a little bit about you?
Yeah, I'd love to do that. So I am what we call a leadership executive and developer of people. And I really enjoy that because my whole thing is that people have such greatness inside of them. And it's not that they need to be motivated. They're already motivated. Unfortunately, a lot of times they're demotivated. And so what I really want to do is help others to unleash the greatness that is inside of them. And we do that through learning, leadership development, and coaching.
Love that. And you've been doing this for a while, right? You've been in the executive leadership field for over a decade, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I started when I was 12. Yeah, that's why.
Tell us about that.
Most definitely. Yeah, I've been in this space for a while and I've worked for major corporations as well as done this on my own. I've partnered with places like the Center for Creative Leadership where we do all things leadership. And so I've really kind of grown up doing this for a while. And before that, I was in marketing. So I started my career first out of undergrad in the marketing space and just got to the point where I really was good at selling products, but it wasn't fulfilling my passion for me. And I started asking my employer if I could start training on the side, and they let me train in the marketing department. And I couldn't wait for my day to get started when I had an opportunity to do that. So that's how I got into training, was actually moving out of marketing into the training field. And like I said, I've been in this field for 15 years, working with everyone from large to small corporations.
Wow, I love it. So I was reading a little bit about your bio, and you talk about a holistic approach, right? A holistic approach to when you're working with leaders, particularly, I think now you work with high level female leaders, executives, right? So
Exactly.
tell us a little bit about those two dynamics,
Yeah.
dynamics side by side.
Well, what I have found is that women, and this probably won't be any surprise to you or to any of your listeners, they have an issue with feeling like they're enough, right? It's all these messages they get from society and from the workplace. Even leadership itself is gender biased because when you think of leadership, you think of being decisive and assertive. And those are usually masculine characteristics. When you think of female characteristics, you think of being empathetic and compassionate. Well, we call that the double bind because as a female, if I exhibit those masculine qualities, I get called things that are probably not so nice. We don't want to say on the podcast. But if I exhibit those feminine characteristics, I get told, well, you're not probably strong enough to be a leader. So we feel like we're not enough and we overcompensate by saying we're going to give 110 or 120%. Well, I'm going to use this as an example. This cup only holds 100 ounces. So the whole idea of 120 just means you're going to get runoff. And the runoff, unfortunately, is going to go into the next cup, which could be your relationships, your health, or your values. And so you end up cannibalizing the rest of your part of your world and your life to feed your career. And so we really work with female leaders to help them to understand that they can excel in their career without cannibalizing those other parts of their lives.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that because, even in education, I'm in education and we always talk about the whole child approach and really that you can't just teach academics to a child. You really have to take the fullness of who they are, their life, their family values, in order to really have the highest impact that you can educationally. So I can definitely relate to that.
Yeah.
And also as a leader, and a CEO, an entrepreneur, a single mom. I've been a single
Uh-huh.
mom, divorced for 10 years now. That holistic approach, that balance to
Right.
be able to give in all those areas of my life and not spiral out of control or feel
Right.
depleted,
Yeah.
and give value to each of those was so important to me. And really, over the past 10 years, I've really also been very dedicated to learning tools
Yes.
and figuring out like all of those things so that I can also leave a full life,
Right.
right? A full
Right.
life with all the things that you want.
Definitely.
So we didn't get to tell anybody how we met. Let's go back to that. So we have an interesting story about how we met. So let's start at the beginning. How did we actually meet?
Well, we met as being part of this mastermind project that we are in. And, it's bringing together mainly women that are entrepreneurs that have a passion for, it could be, we have women that are there for health and for you with education. We even have a lady that's selling wine, right? I mean, so we are all over the board. And we had a great opportunity to come together in Phoenix a couple weeks ago. It was both an opportunity to recharge and to really focus on who we are inside and outside. And you were so kind to me as I was really late coming in the first day and sent me a message to say, hey, just want to make sure you're okay. We were waiting for you. So I really did appreciate that. And we just hit it from there and had an opportunity to continue to talk and to grow the friendship.
We did. And I also am so glad that we did because you're amazing and such a bright light. And I love that we get to connect and collaborate and support each other, right? So yes, Arizona was amazing. We did spend some time together there, and it was over a few days, but the very first day that we all flew in, and like you said, we have entrepreneurs from all over the
Mhm.
US that flew in to be a part of this Elevate 360 Mastermind with Melissa Hinault. And the very first day, like you talk about the masculine energy and the
Mhm.
feminine, you mentioned that, right? And
Yes,
a lot of us that are CEOs and founders
right,
and entrepreneurs, we lead with the masculine and we lead with the doing a lot of time, right?
right.
So we step into spaces with those things. And
You
the
nailed it.
first day we had to sort of let all that go, right? We had to really shift. And we spent a whole day unpacking our personal stories, our habits. We were with a few amazing coaches and facilitators that day. And I loved it because I've been sort of discovering energetics
Right,
and how energetics affects my business
right.
model for a couple of years now. And I'm so glad that we got to do that as a team that first day in Arizona. So, how was that experience for you? And what did you learn?
Yeah. It was the best day for me as well. Just the ability we don't get a chance to really think about ourselves, right? And to focus on ourselves. We're always helping, especially as women, we're always helping others. And as busy entrepreneurs, it's always about what we can do for others. So this was an opportunity to slow down, to really to step inside of ourselves, to sit with
Hmm.
ourselves for a little bit and learn some things. And I think what I learned the most is that I am on a journey myself. I think I felt like I should have maybe arrived or I should have already known all these things. And I'm learning and I am passing along that learning to the women that I coach and that are part of my learning programs. And what I've known is they're not looking for me to be perfect. They're not looking for me to have already arrived. There's no such thing as being able to arrive, right? Even when you get to the level that is your goal, then what was your ceiling becomes your floor, right? And you just keep learning and growing from there. So I learned that it's okay to be okay with being on my way to being okay. And I guess just that's a long way of saying is that I'm on a journey and I want to share those experiences with the women that I coach and that are in my programs and that they are appreciative of those lessons and me sharing them. And I don't have to have already been, totally out of that space in order to talk to them about it. Does that make sense? Because sometimes, you feel like you have to be perfect or you already have to have arrived before you can really share that with anyone else. And I don't believe that's the case.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you. And really, it's about being authentic,
Yes.
right? So when you're showing up authentically, one, people are attracted to that
Yes.
because people like authenticity, but also you're showing up with some vulnerability as well, right? You have to be able to hold both spaces. And that's really when you're able to grow,
Yes.
and learn. So you really do have to come imperfect,
Right.
right, in order to level up, right,
Yes.
in order to grow your practice and get uncomfortable, and all those things. And I wanted to take a minute, if we can, and talk about a couple of the things that we did that first day because we
Sure.
had some really great trainers.
Yes.
We had Preston Smiles that came and really introduced a lot of us to energy, the power of energy,
Mm-hmm.
and energy transfer, I would
Mm-hmm.
say. He had us do some very distinct exercises where I think at one point you were in that final round where everybody's eyes were closed and we were kind of pointing to folks and sending energy across the room, and actually people were receiving it, which
Yes.
was so cool to watch.
Yes.
But also the power of a hug. We don't really
Yes.
think of a hug as energy transfer, but it very much is.
Right.
Very calming to your nervous system, right? It sort of gets all of those great chemicals in your body going
Yeah.
to reset you. So, we did a lot with him, and Tracy O'Malley was there, who was amazing, and really talked to us about the Enneagram.
Right.
And I felt that was really fascinating. And in your bio, you also had done a little work with Myers Briggs, right?
Yes.
Myers Briggs, yeah. So it's interesting because that's, to me, is sort of well, I'll let you explain it in the sense of like the fullness of it, but it's a way to sort of understand yourself and how you show up,
Yes, most
right?
definitely. Yeah, most
Yeah.
definitely. And with Myers Briggs, it really is to say how are you motivated? Like what motivates you? Are you an extrovert or introvert? Is it through sensing or is it through intuition? And then you also look at things like if it's thinking or if it's feeling, and then judging and perception. So there's four different areas that you take a look at. And in the Enneagram, it has a different set of characteristics that you're looking at, but it's similar in the way that it's trying to get to how do you motivate? What's your center? What guides you? And then have you moved away from your center and what guides you? And if so, what does that mean and how do you get back to being centered? And so I think that a lot of these assessments that we have they're all really good ways of becoming more self-aware because we all have blind spots and
Mhm.
they're just things that we operate in and we don't know that we are coming across a certain way and it may not be our intent, right? We may want to show up a different way, and
Mhm.
when you do assessments it really gives you an opportunity to understand your blind spots and to be intentional about how you want to show up with others.
Yeah. And also I think when you do it in a group dynamic,
Mhm.
when you're, because a lot of the women that you work with are head of teams,
Yes.
right? And so it's also really important to understand who's on your team,
Yes.
to understand who you may need on your team because you don't have certain, like, that's not your strength of a skill set,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So working with Tracy was very cool. I mean, we did it on a personal level, but just so fascinating when you take it into like a team dynamic, into a business dynamic. So I really love that. And then of course we did some hypno breath work
Yes.
with Daisy Mack, and we had Samantha Harper there as well, doing sound bowls. So we really had just a really great reset. I
Yes.
feel like that first day that cleared the path for us to really
Yes.
step into our what's next in business,
Right,
right?
right. Because self care is really important because if you aren't at your best, I mean, it's like, everybody uses that analogy about being on a plane and they tell you to put the mask on first before you help
Yeah.
everyone else. And it's true, right? If you're tired, if you're,
Mhm.
um, if you're irritated, and if any of those things are happening to you, you can't bring your best to
Yep.
others. You can't succeed in doing the things that you want to do because you're using all that energy in the
Mhm.
ways that you don't want to use it. And you're not being able to apply yourself in the way that you want to. So self care is so important.
And self-awareness, like you said. I wanted to mention that we had talked in the pre-interview about some work I had done with Momentum Education, which is where I was first introduced to a lot of this type of work.
Mhm.
And I came to that, it was recommended to me by a trusted friend,
Mhm.
and she said, "You're gonna love this. It's, this professional development." And in my word, professional development is, it's
Yeah.
you talk about it every day, right?
Right.
So I was like, "Oh, great, great. I love to do new things." So I showed up in my masculine, right, with all of my accolades and feeling good about the work I was doing and all
Right.
those good things. And I quickly realized within 30 minutes of being there, I actually was crying within 30 minutes of the
Mm.
training. And who
Mhm.
cries in a PD? Like nobody does. And I realized it was going to be a very different type of
Yeah.
experience. And that experience, although at that moment was not business focused,
Right.
what I learned was the work I did in those 3 days in that program, when I finished, I was a different person.
Wow.
And what I had unpacked and let go of
Mhm.
allowed space for what I needed to do next in my business.
I love that.
And I think that when we talk about like, these types of things like Enneagram and breath work and, those types of things, or even it could just be a walk in the park,
Yeah.
it's really a way to release and let go of things so
Definitely.
that new things can come in and you can go to the next level
Right.
in your business if that is what you're aiming to do.
Right. No, I totally agree. I've had a similar thing happen where, when I am in front of, and when I'm presenting or when I'm in front of crowds and I'm facilitating sessions, Dr. Princess Cullum shows up. So, to your point of showing up in your masculinity with all of my research and all of my information and all my been published and all these things. And people admire that. They admire it, they're drawn to it, it has a certain energy, but there's a separation between Dr. Cullum and the rest of the crowd. And
Mm.
what I have gotten feedback on is that when Princess shows up with all her quirks and she's goofy and she likes to tell jokes and have a good time, they love that, right? So there's admiration, but then there's this love that you get where people feel like they see you and they see everything about who you are, not just the polished, version of you. And they relate to that so much more because I don't know if I can be Dr. Princess. I mean, I'm not, you know what I mean? It's like, okay, yeah, that's awesome. But where do I fit into that? And when you come down and you're more yourself and you're vulnerable and people can see all, like I said, the quirks and everything, they can see themselves in
Yeah.
that. So I too have had to learn, I have to learn that lesson.
Yeah, yeah, I love that, and I got to see Dr. Princess and Princess in Arizona, so that was great. We got to do a little dancing and, having a good time together. So having that experience now in Arizona, and the beginnings of some of the things you mentioned, and then this holistic approach that you have when you're working with leaders, what kind of a message do you now have for women as they're trying to create this balance in their life?
Right. Well, a couple of different things. The first thing when we start talking about self awareness, I think not only do you have to know yourself, but you have to be aware that you're part of a system. And in that system, we have what we call tops, mid, and bottoms. And depending on where you enter into the system, there are conditions that are there waiting for you. They're waiting for everyone. But as a woman, sometimes we don't identify them as being part of the system. We think there's something that's on us, that it's personal to how we show up. And because of that, we're swinging at and we're fighting everything, right? And so,
Mhm.
one of the things I try to let women know is there's a system, there are conditions that exist. Realize that and manage that, but don't waste a lot of energy in there fighting the system.
Mhm.
And then be aware of where you have blind spots and where you need to improve and make changes and spend your energy there. And then when it comes to managing the outside, we have these things that we call polarities, which are two things that they seem to be different, and they seem to be something that you can't do at the same time. So people feel like they have to choose and they don't really know what to do with them. And so let me give you an example of task and relationship, right? So when you're working in corporate or you're working in your business, you probably have all these tasks that you have to do. You have payroll, you have to set up appointments, you have all those things. But then you have the relationship piece, right? There's people that you need to talk to and that you need to meet. We get things done through other people. And you can find yourself saying, I'm spending so much time working on these tasks, I don't have time for the relationships, and vice versa. And so you drop one or you drop the other one because you don't feel like you can hold them both at the same time. But when we talk about polarities, it's holding the both, but realizing that there's time when you have to lean in one and let go of the other. And then the last major concept I would share with you is that you have to set boundaries.
Mhm.
It's your choice. You get to decide how you want to spend your day and where you want to spend your energy, but you got to put boundaries around that to make sure that it's confined and not it's not rolling over into other parts of your life. Like
Yeah.
that first example I gave with the cannibalization, you got to put those boundaries up. So those are just three of the things that we really like to talk to women about. Give them tools. We call it like for their tool belt, kind of
Mhm.
weigh it down, and then they can have those tools available for them whenever they need them.
Yeah, I love that. I love that a lot, and I agree with you that holding the polarities and understanding the give and take,
Hmm.
and where it's like an art form,
It
right?
is.
It's an
It
art
is.
form. Yeah. I
Yeah.
would say, when I was reflecting on Arizona and the comeback, I would say for me, it's also a big thing that I work with teachers on is having a reflection practice and creating
Hmm.
space.
Hmm.
I think is really important because knowing who you are and knowing what you need, you have
Right.
to give it time
Yeah.
to even know that.
Yes.
And also it can change,
Yeah.
right? It's not always the same as we evolve
Right.
and grow. There's different things that we need and different circumstances that we need to plan for.
Right.
Um, I also think for me, uh, defining success, what it
Mhm.
means to you,
Mhm.
because success means a lot of different
Yeah.
things to people. And I think when you understand the why behind what you're doing and you have your own definition of success, it
Mhm.
helps you make those hard decisions
It
as to like which cup needs your attention and which cup maybe, could hang out for a bit.
does.
Right? So that's what kind of comes up for me when I was thinking about that question and reflecting on our time together too. So with that, do you have certain like routines, rituals, daily practices that you use to support you in kind of your day to day?
Yeah, I do. Funny story though. I mean, I do breath work right now. So I am on right now, a particular 40-day journey to do both stretching and breath work in the morning as soon as I get up before I do anything else. Now, the funny thing is that if you were to ask Dr. Cullum, I'd say several months ago about breath work, she probably would have rolled her eyes at you and said, I don't have time for that, right? I got to do this, I got to do that, I got to do this. And after going, I would say, starting with the mastermind and working with Daisy and actually going through and spending that time, it's
Yeah.
something you got to get used to. It's almost a new language, right? For us to get used to the breath work and to value that. But now I can't imagine not doing it because it just, to your point, it centers you and it gives you those guardrails to help you see clearly on what things do you need to prioritize and what things do you not, because now you kind of have some guardrails to judge it from, as
Yeah.
opposed to when you're tired and when you're overworked, you don't have guardrails, and everything seems like it's a priority. It seems like there's a fire around every corner that you got to put out. And so I think becoming more centered, controlling your breath means controlling your thoughts, what comes in, what goes out. I've been listening to how to do the work, and one of the things that she talks about is that you are the thinker, not your thoughts. And I love that, right? Because as women, we have so many thoughts that are coming in our head all the time, and they're not all ours. And so I find myself doing the kind of virtual moving things out of the way in my head so that I can get it clear. But breath work really allows me to do that.
Yeah, I love that. And breath work is, I mean, I've done yoga for many years, and a part of that is, of course, breath work and meditation. So I've been familiar with it, but hypno breath work is new to me as well. And since I've been doing it, again, Daisy Mack introduced me to it. It's been a game changer as well as it has been for you. And it's energizing,
Yes,
it's clearing,
yes,
and it also sometimes get lets it's an opportunity to let go, like I had mentioned previously, where you're holding on to your body's holding on to things. And when you're able just to sit and breathe through for those sessions, like 25-minute
yes,
sessions, your body actually will allow it to be released,
right,
those emotions, so that you have space, right? And clarity, like feeling lifted almost,
yes,
right?
yes, yeah.
To be able to move forward. So I love that. So
One
I
thing I would say about that, is don't do that around other people. I have found I made the mistake of doing it one morning. I usually go in the closet, honestly, and have some space while my husband's still in the other room. And he happened to hear me one morning. He was like, "What are you doing in there?" Right?
yeah, yeah, I know. It takes a little getting used to, but hey, listen, let them breathe with you, right? Get 'em
There you go.
down on the floor and get a mat and let's breathe together. That's great. So I wanted to share just a couple of mine. So I try to protect my mornings and my evenings when you talk about boundaries.
Mhm.
I'm raising three amazing people, and they're important that I make space for them. So being able to drive my youngest daughter to school is really important to me. And being there for all of her games and things like that. So, I have boundaries around the times that I'm actively available for
Yeah,
work.
exactly.
And anything outside of those areas is my choice if I
Right.
choose to respond to a call or schedule something outside of that.
Love it.
Also, like knowing my energy patterns, I think is important, right? So when I have tasks that need a lot of thinking behind them or
Mhm.
creation, those are usually going to get done in the morning because my
Mm,
energy is most productive for those things in the morning.
mhm, mhm.
So
Yeah.
understanding that. And I also do something I think that you'll love. So it's a little feminine and a little masculine. So I I do goals every month, but
Okay.
my goals are actually in different areas. So a
Nice.
lot of people will make like maybe a task list or a goal list.
Hmm.
So I very intentionally create 3 goals in each of the following areas: in
Okay.
relationships with
Hmm.
my family and friends, meaning I'll look at like who maybe have I not spent time with that I'm
Hmm.
missing or
Great.
something like that, right? So that
Hmm.
finances and wealth building,
Nice.
because finance is one thing, but also wealth building is super
Yeah.
important, leaving a
Yeah.
legacy to my family.
Hmm.
Business growth and opportunities.
Hmm.
So 3 distinct things there. Healthy lifestyle and living,
Hmm.
and of course, fun and adventure because
Oh, I like it.
I'm an adventure seeker, so I always need to be sure that there's some sort of fun and adventure in there.
Yeah, yeah, I like that, and it's nice that you be intentional about it because one of the things that I talk to women about is what do you want your life to look like, right?
Yeah,
To your point, all of those different facets of your life that you just talked about, you got to plan for that because what will happen? To your point, when you said I want to be around to take my daughter to school, well, you'll have women that they'll get this high power job, and I live in Charlotte, in uptown Charlotte, and perhaps they live in South Charlotte because that's where they want to send their kids to school. That's
yeah,
a 45-minute hour commute. Well, if I want to be home in the morning to take my kids to school, but I got this high power job that's downtown, uptown, those things are going to be in conflict with each other.
mhm,
And we have a tendency to think about that after we've pursued the career and we've gotten the job and it's downtown, as opposed to saying, to your point, what do I want my life to look like? And based on what I want my life to look like, then I will fit the career and all the and where I live and all those other things, those decisions that I have to make into that. Those become the guardrails, and I won't find myself needing to make an hour commute when it's I really would like to be home and maybe do a 15-minute commute, or maybe I want to work from home, right? But
mhm.
starting with what you want your life to look like and then fitting the other pieces into that is a much better way of making sure that you are living the life that you want to live all out.
Yeah, yeah, I agree, and it's definitely when I started doing that, there was definitely a shift for me,
Hmm. Yeah.
and it keeps me grounded
Yes.
because I have to revisit that every month.
I
Like,
like that.
how am I moving forward? What did I do or not do? And what's important. So, anyway, let's get into like how you define success. So, I talked a little bit. So, my definition of success is really being there for my family and
Hmm.
friends. That really is what drives me, is having
Right.
freedom of time.
Hmm.
So that really is anytime I'm doing that, I'm happy and feeling successful. So, how about you?
Similarly, I always say that I like looking at people's eyes,
Mm,
and I like looking for that light in their eyes, especially when I've opened up a door to a new possibility or to a new world that they didn't know that existed for themselves. And you can clearly see when it clicks and when people get it and they're able to apply that into their world and they start telling you what you just shared with them, but in the context of it, how they're going to live it in their lives. That's how I consider it. You know, that's what I consider to be success. Because I have to be honest with you. If I have a fear, that fear is that I'll live my whole life and I will not have lived my life on purpose. Therefore, the people that were waiting on me, right, that I need to be in contact with or I need to be engaged with, I don't show up. And so they don't get what they need, you know, because I believe we're all, intertwined and we're all connected and we depend on each other. And if you don't show up to do what you're supposed to do, then somebody else misses out. And
mm,
so, like you, I wake up every morning with intention to show up and live on purpose and to make sure that I'm fully living out all the opportunities that I have because I don't want somebody else to miss out on what they need from me because I didn't show up.
yeah, yeah. I love that. I love that. That's great. Thank you for
Thank you.
sharing that. So I like to ask all my guests this next question
Okay.
because it's important to me and it's a word that I love. So what does Verve look like in your life? Um, and do you know what Verve means up until
Yes,
today?
I looked it up. You know, it came across to me as being just what enthusiasm. I really thought about it as kind of like what lights you up, right? So that question that I just answered a minute ago about seeing that light in others' eyes lights me up. Knowing that I've made an impact, like I can be walking down the mall because I do teach as a collegiate at a collegiate level as well, and a student will come up to me and they'll say, "Hey, Professor Cullum, I had your class X, Y, and Z, and it changed my life. I was going down a certain path, and now I'm doing something different." So just knowing that I've impacted others excites me. Knowing that I've opened up doors for others excites me. Knowing that my children and my husband, are living the life of their dream excites me. So it really is that giving back to others, and making sure that others are have what they need from me in order to live their life fully. That's really what gets me excited. I love to see other people grow.
Yes, I love it. I love it. I'm gonna do a montage of all the answers that people have given for
That'd be
the word
nice.
verb. That'd be
Yeah,
fun, right?
that would be fun. Yeah, it would.
So thank you for that. And then as we get ready to close out today, tell us what's next. What are you up to? How can people contact you?
Yeah,
Those
thank you for asking that. So, I am really excited about a new program that I have coming up. It's called the CEO of You. And the whole premise of that is that you are at the center of your world and you get to make the choices about how you want to show up in your life. And we're going to give you those tools to help you to be able to accelerate your career without cannibalizing your health, your values, and your relationships. And we have a great opportunity for all of your listeners to actually come and test it out, test drive it for free. So we
cool.
have a master class that's coming up April 17th through the 25th. It's going to be held over the lunch hour from 12 to 1. We're going to have some wonderful speakers from all four of these different areas. So we'll have psychotherapists, we'll have spiritual leader, we'll have some of the participants from some of our previous programs to come and tell you how their life was impacted and changed, as well as some of the mentors that have mentored our participants to tell you like how they have been able to help others and what they've gotten out of it too, right? Because it's a two-way street. So we'd love for anyone that's interested to go out to the ceofofyou.com, and we'll have information out there on the master class and how you can register. We also have an opt-in to a free guide, which if you feel like you may be a little stuck and you're not living your life fully, it will give you some ideas on how you can branch out, how you can grow, how you can get unstuck. So definitely go out there and check out the guide. And then we'd love for you to join us for the master class so you can have an opportunity to just kind of test drive and experience what we have to offer.
I love that. So folks should go to ceofofyou.com so they can register for your masterclass from April
Yes.
17th to the 25th. And then the free guide, it's called Career Breakthrough Guide. Did I
Yes,
get that right?
you
Yeah.
nailed it.
Yay. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. It's been so good to talk to you.
Yes, it's the same. It's been wonderful. And you are doing wonderful things. I just want to make sure that all your listeners know all the great things that you're doing in and out of the community with your scholarship and with, just doing podcasts, my inspiration. You totally are, you're inspiring me and all of us every single day. So thank you so much for giving us this opportunity. We really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much. That's so kind. I appreciate it. And speaking of the scholarship, thanks for the reminder. Our scholarship is still open. It's the Verve Arts Scholarship. It closes April 9th, so it closes this week. And we'll be doing an award for a New Jersey high school senior or current college graduate studying the arts. So
Very nice.
check that out too. Well, thank you so much. And I'll catch up with you soon.
Thank you. Take care.
Okay. Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.
Bye, guys.